I read 23 books in October. I don't know how I thought I was going to tone it down. Yes, I'm still working. Yes, I was still a mom. Yes, I was still a daughter. Yes, I was still a wife. But here are what I thought of my crazy October, both in my personal life and my reading life. Okay, so October was a little crazy because we had a vacation. So I did have some vacation time to read, but went to Hawaii for a wedding and then also had some health issues come up in our family. Plus, I had a whole Wellness Mama's Summit. It was crazy October. There's a lot of hours that I lost sleeping because I got sucked in. And let me share all the books that I loved, the ones that I didn't really like, and all the in-betweens. And I didn't do a September recap, so if you want one, let me know. I will do a quick dive into which ones I loved the most at the end. But here's what I read before I dive into October. I'm going to be looking at my little chart, my beautiful story graph recap of my readings because 23 friends, but I'm going to look at my iPad here, which has my books, and let me go through them. Six of them were arcs, and I will also preface with these are everything that I finished in October. So some of these I did start earlier, and I either took a break and decided this was the time to come back to it, but these are the ones that I finished in October. So maybe I'll go with some of my best ones and some of my middle ones and then some of my best ones again. Okay, I'm just going to start with the one that I loved the most and I will rave about. If you have not read Kate Stewart books, go, go. They are spicy though. So when I started reading spicy books, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want my family to know about this. Or should I even talk about it? Because I don't want my friends to know that I'm reading these. But you know what? I'm going with no shame because I read everything. And these bring me great joy in different ways. It's not just because of the Spice Friends. They have such great depth to them. That is why these captivate me, and I would highly recommend them. So, the first one I'm going to talk about is a duology. It's a duet, but actually it has a novella too, so it's like two and a half books. But it is the Bittersweet Symphony duet by Kate Stewart. The first book is called Drive, the second book is called Reverse. And then there is a novella called Bittersweet Melody, but it is a rock star romance. And so Drive is Stella, Reed, and Nate. It's a love triangle of sorts, two vying for the same woman, but it is a journey. It is a journey where there's all these hardships that people go through and come back together. But Reverse is actually two kids of I don't want to spoil anything. So it is the story of their children. And because there was that love triangle, remember, obviously both guys do not get the girl. And so there is a kid from one, there's a kid from another, and it ends up looping back around. It is obviously like a Romeo and Juliet where you do not want to fall in love with your parents' ex love child. This is me trying to be as spoiler free as possible. But anyway, it is like a Romeo and Juliet type of story, but they have this super strong love, but fantastic relationship with their parents too. So I think that is another aspect that I absolutely love in this series. It's not just about the romance, it is about the community around them, it is about their relationship with their parents, trying to do the right thing, but also trying to do what is right for them. Um, and sometimes it is inhibitionless, sometimes then that comes back in a haunting way, right? But it is an emotional roller coaster that guts you and then puts you back together in the best way possible. And her books always do that. And so I've raved about the Ravenhood trilogy as well. Um, that one's a whole different journey that you go on because it's like a thriller, darker romance. But also one that I would highly recommend, but I didn't read that in October, so now I'm digressing. But those three books, oh, I would. shout from the rooftops that it is absolutely beautiful and highly recommend. And it's on Kindle Unlimited, so that will be a whole other discussion about Kindle Unlimited because I just started trying it. There's a 3-month trial because of the big deal that they had on Amazon in October, but I'm trying it and read these and my mind has been blown. I love her. I need to go read all of Kate Stewart's books. Those are the only two series that I've read so far. If you've read them and loved them, girl, girl, I said girl, but it could be anybody. Let's talk about it together because I talk about it all the time and I'm finding new friends to talk about it with. And now that I'm not feeling ashamed about reading these spicy books, let's talk about it. Let's be friends. Okay, a few other ones. I said I read arcs, right? And if you have watched this video about all of the arcs that I've read and how I get them, you know that I have touched upon these, but let me go into a little more deeper detail of some of these books that I've read. Jenny Slate Life Form. This one, it's a beautiful and funny take on motherhood. I wasn't like super captivated the whole time, and so it was just kind of okay for me, but it was funny. I wanted to finish it, so I gave it 3 stars. But I think it is worth a read because she voices a lot of things about motherhood that a lot of us might not say out loud, but have thought. So there's a quick one there. Deja Brew is one that I just really couldn't get into. It's supposed to be about magic and witches and the Halloween time, so I thought it was relevant to the time, but I just couldn't really love it. It was fine, it was cute, but it doesn't really stick. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe was also like a holiday Halloweeny one that I wanted to pick up because it had gotten all this rave reviews on TikTok and Book Talk and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, it was just okay. It again kind of fell flat for me. Um, I was talking about arcs though, wasn't I? I digressed into Halloween kinds of things. I think those are the only Halloween-ish books that I read though, or fall-ish books that I read specifically for the season. But I'll go back to arcs. Someone Like You by Cindy Barker. I read one of the books before, actually, and I had no idea that that was a series. And Match Me If You Can was the first one in that book. This one, Someone Like You, it's a cute romance. It's got some spice, but not too bad. So I don't know, it's just a cute romance, and it's about best friends. One falls in love with the other, but doesn't know how to tell them. But obviously, he is also in love with her and doesn't know it until later. It's this, she's trying to help match him up with a person because he got broken up with in a very, very poor way to the person he was going to propose to that day. So, and it was a baker. The male main character is a baker. He won Britain's Best Baker, and so it mixes my loves of food and romance. So yeah, food, books, love, cute. But I didn't really give it 5 stars, but it is a cute read. What else is on my, okay, this might have been my favorite, well, one of my favorite arcs, Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. It's coming out in March, but it is about love as much as what it is about grief and finding the people to get you through all the hard times because we all have hard times, right? And she lost her because I think at the beginning it doesn't tell you. It is about grief and how we deal with it and finding people that have been there as well. But those people could come in the most unknown ways, unexpected ways. For her, it comes in the form of someone that she is part-time nannying for because the female main character suffers a huge loss in her life of someone that she cared for very, very deeply. And because of that, and because of the effects on her own health, mental health, she doesn't feel like she can nanny full time like she used to. So she only takes short gigs, but she ends up nannying for a girl who her uncle is like the super grumpy, right? Grumpy sunshine trope, anyone? Um, Guy that is kind of standoffish, but he is the one that understands grief just like what she needs. And it is the relationship that grows of them being people to each other that help each other, that encourage each other and understand each other. And of course, romance blooms and unfolds as the story goes, but it is just so heartwarming. To see that progression of going through grief and letting someone in to journey alongside you and knowing that there is so much depth to the hurt that each of them went through and to be able to use that for good in other people's lives. It was just a beautiful story. So when it comes out in March of 2025, you should absolutely read it. Promise Me Sunshine. How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. Megan Quinn is one of my favorite rom-com authors, and I will read anything that she writes. I have not read everything she has written so far, but I am slowly making my way through those. This one, she writes spicy rom-coms, so just be aware of that. It is like the Grinch in modern day retelling of sorts, in this town that is basically Christmas all year round. And they are competing in this town for who has the most holiday spirit. And it's just a cute series of different competitions that they go through, like candy cane making or doing a skit or just all kinds of things. And it is super cute, super funny. The characters are lovable. The story is lovable. She also has these short, funny poems, if you want to call it that, at the beginning of each chapter that kind of foreshadows what is coming, but they're so cute. Megan Quinn, I love you. You are a fantastic poet, writer, and the banter, I just love it. So if you want a cute holiday read, definitely go check out How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. Yin Yang Love Song was also a an arc that I read by Lauren Kang Jessen, and this one I really liked. I gave it 4 stars, but I liked because there were a lot of Asian themes throughout it. She herself, the author herself, is multiracial, and so I think she brings in all of these different touches that I could resonate with, and my kids are multiracial as well. And so just having that helped me relate to this book a lot more, and it talks about healing and how people came together, this family came together to provide a place of healing for people outside of common medicine, but with alternative medicine and things like that. And I think it was just a beautiful place to do that. And it's also a romance with, it's not a rock star in this one, but he is a cellist. So a famous cellist and this person that brews different kinds of teas for healing properties and how they fake date one another for the good of his image and then for her shop and how that becomes something more, obviously. But it is a cute thing that a lot of Asian people, I think, will relate to as far as, trying to um, live up to parents' dreams, trying to be that model minority, all that kind of stuff does get brought up, and I resonate with that deeply. So I enjoyed that. Before We Forget Kindness was also an arc that I read, and it is part of the series of Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and it is a bestseller. And I've talked about it before, and if you have not seen my Japanese book video, I'm going to talk about that here because I put that in my This Japanese American Life YouTube channel related to Japanese books for this one, as well as Pure Invention by Matt Alt. But this one, I go into deeper detail in that video, so go check out deeper information there. But I enjoyed it. It made me cry. It touches on what we would do if we could do a certain time or a way we reacted in an incident differently. And it has elements of time travel, elements of magic, elements of just emotionalness of we can't change the present, but how would you go back in time or potentially to the future to make things different, to change how you reconcile with someone if something is broken. How would you have behaved differently, even knowing that the time and outcome that you had would not change? So, so much to think about, very thought-provoking, very sentimental, touches on, loved ones that are lost, parent-child relationships that are broken, friendships that are broken, um, love lost, all of those things that are, I think, very fundamental to people. So totally relatable to all. And then I mentioned Pure Invention. This was by Matt Alt, and it deep dives into Japanese pop culture and how it became a global phenomenon. So if you were curious about how Hello Kitty, Super Mario, karaoke, I say that with a weird accent, but karaoke is in Japanese, or Pokemon, Cars, the Walkman. Remember all these things that are part of normal day conversations globally, how that started in Japan and why that became such a global hit and phenomenon and still is to this day. Maybe not Walkmans to this day, but you get what I'm saying. It thorough history of how those came about, why those became such hits all around the world. Fantastic book on all of that if you want more information there. Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I loved The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. That was the first book I read by her. And I was in a book challenge, which is also why I read so many stinking books because I was like, oh, I cannot read this or lose this challenge. And so I kept reading. And then I obviously get lost in books. So Vicious was one of the ones that I need to read for Dark Academia. And so this is two people that are competing and there is magic involved. There are people that are extraordinary people and they are not supposed to be extraordinary because that's just not normal, right? And so there's one person that is trying to get rid of all the extraordinary people, whereas the other person who they were best friends and they understood how to create extraordinary people, the other one is trying to stop the first one that's trying to exterminate, right? So it's a fascinating just look into this almost cat and mouse game of trying to stop the other and why people are doing the things that they do because the intentions are not necessarily bad. Someone thinks that this is not something that needs to be in this world or should be in this world. The other person is saying, hey, they still have the right to existence. This is a very common thing that happens in life too, right? Where people just have different opinions. And do people go about it the right way? Not necessarily, but it happens, you know. Here's one that I saw like really rave reviews, The Wedding People, and it was just meh for me. So the premise is there is a woman that goes to this resort, which is all rented out for a wedding, except for her. She's the only person there that is not there for the wedding, and she is going through a really rough patch in her life, and she is actually there to not keep going in her life, but it is also the story of how she meets different people in this wedding and ends up finding herself again. So I don't know why it didn't hit home because now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, oh, it was kind of a very neat story of how we have interactions with people in unexpected ways that profoundly change our lives. So I think that's why people really, really enjoyed this book, but I don't know. It was just an okay for me. And that's that. Everybody has opinions, friends. It's like a belly button. Everybody has opinions. They don't all look the same. And that's okay. This book I read is Matt Haig, The Life Impossible. I loved The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So I was really excited to have this pop up on my Libby when it became ready for me on audiobook. And I just slugged. I it was about to expire on Libby, and so I finished it but I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just too far-fetched or um, it just did not captivate me like the other books. So I gave it 2 stars. I'll just leave it at that. Another one that I gave 2 stars, I wanted to love this. It's called The Canadian Boyfriend by Jenny Holiday. And I'm going to be honest with you, I got it because the audiobook is narrated by Joshua Jackson, aka Pacey from Dawson's Creek. For all my millennial friends out there who would read it because of the narrator. And it was just okay. There were cute moments, but I felt like his narration was a little dry. Um, I don't know, I just wanted more. And the story wasn't really that unique necessarily. She is a nanny, ends up nannying she's a dance teacher that ends up helping nanny um, this Canadian hockey player's daughter. But the funny thing is that she has actually met him way before back in time when she was working at a Starbucks when he had been um, in the area for a hockey game pre going pro. So she has always said that was her Canadian boyfriend, just fake created someone for an excuse to be her introvert self and have someone that she just thought of and wrote letters to and all of that. But then when he comes back into her life because his daughter is a dance student of hers, all things go crazy, right? And he has just lost his wife to a car accident. So going through grief and child going through grief and all of that. But it's a cute story. Now that I'm thinking about it, it is a cute story. I just, I don't know, maybe I was expecting too much. Drop Dead Sisters was a thriller that I read or a mystery because again, it was one of the boxes that I had to check off on my October reading challenge with one of my book groups. And it is about 3 sisters that don't really get along, but they all go on a camping trip for their parents' big wedding anniversary and ends up someone ends up not alive. It's not a nice person, but it is a family friend that is someone that has bothered them for a long time. But when that happens, it becomes a whole big thing trying to cover it up. And the sisters bond together to try to do so. But they need to figure out who actually did it so that they do not get arrested and all of that. So it is interesting, but maybe mysteries and thrillers just aren't my super jam, but I gave it 3 stars. Okay, I read this really long book because my coworkers were reading it and recommended reading it. It's in Chinese, so it is translated, but oh shoot, I don't have the Chinese or the English name for it. It's something like the revenge of the military lineage, the rebirth of the military. I'll get the words and I'll put it on here. It is really, really long. So it has taken me months. I was going to give up. But again, the reading challenge made me do it because I was supposed to read a book that was longer than 666 pages. And this fit the bill. So I said, okay, as long as I can finish it, it counts. So I finished it. And it's a good book and it's going to be a drama. So several of my friends said, I'm just going to watch the drama because it's really long and it's kind of predictable and all of that. But it's still fun to read. It was, yeah, it's a translation, obviously, because I do not read Chinese. But if you like Chinese dramas or K-dramas or Asian dramas in general, it might be up your alley. Ben Yokoyama and the Cookie of Endless Waiting was a kid book that I read with my kids. I picked up the Ben Yokoyama books because I thought it was going to be more Asian, but it's not really. It's called the Cookie Chronicles series because there's a fortune in a cookie that Ben reads, and then it just sticks with him, and that's kind of the thing of the book, right? And so this fortune cookie says, "Oh, good will come to those who wait," and so then it's this whole book of, oh, but I'm waiting for this. And oh, if I wait, then I'm supposed to wait and then good things will happen. But obviously, you're not supposed to wait all the time. So it's just a fascinating journey for little Ben to go through and figure out, well, why isn't this waiting working and all of that. But sometimes I was kind of like angsty, like, oh, come on, you know? So I give it 3 stars. The kids seem to enjoy it for the most part, and they want to keep reading the series, so we'll keep reading together. But it was okay for me. Some of my nonfiction. So, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. I finally finished it. I was almost done, but I started this quite a while ago. And it is really about our brains can only hold so much, right? But there's so much information coming at us. So, how do we make it so that we're not just relying here, but we're putting notes in a way that is useful for us to come back to? And so, how do you build that second brain, whether it is on your device, your computer, your phone, or even a notebook, a physical notebook? But having an organization system so that you can access the things that you think about and be more effective with what you've read, what you've learned, what you've researched, all of that. So, it is a fascinating book and great tips, tricks, everything to make you more productive, building a second brain. And then for parenting, Raising Securely Attached Kids by Eli Hardwood was one that I read, and it is great. I really enjoyed it. Nothing was really new to me because I have listened to, I have read, I have studied these different philosophies or tips and tricks, but she brings a great comedicness to it or heart to it because she puts in all these stories, right, of how this applies to her life as a parent or as a friend or as a wife or any of these things. And it makes it so much more tangible, so much more applicable and understandable. So, really appreciate that. And if you are looking to get away from the harsh discipline and feeling more connected with your child instead, especially in the hard times, this is a great way to talk about attachment parenting, more about connection and being rooted in that, so that you're not punishing, you're not um, telling your child that they are not worthy of love when they do things that are considered bad because they are not bad people. They are not bad children. They just sometimes make bad decisions or they're not old enough for their brains to like really kick in and know what to do. And so tantrums are ways in which they express that they are frustrated, that they are upset, they don't know what to do. And so it's just a great read, great reminder for me on how to really care for my kids, in which they know that they are secure with me. They know that my love is not conditional on what they do or what they say or how they react to things, that I am there for them no matter what. So, if that interests you, Raising Securely Attached Kids by Eli Harwood, fantastic read. Four Weekends and a Funeral by Ellie Palmer. It had it is her debut book, and it had a blurb by Abby Jimenez, whom I absolutely love, and so I read it. The premise is that the female main character goes to the funeral of her ex-boyfriend who broke up with her like 6 weeks prior, but it seems nobody else knows except for his sister that he actually broke up with her. So everybody thinks he is she is still his current girlfriend and all these things. And she ends up volunteering to help clean out his condo because the parents just cannot deal with that aspect of it right now, along with his best friend, who is standoffish, kind of grumpy. And she had never really gotten along with or really even met. But even in text, it was just very standoffish, right? So they are stuck for 4 weekends cleaning out his condo, the ex-boyfriend who died's condo, and getting it ready for the family to take care of. And in those 4 weekends, obviously they get to know each other better, and there is something that blooms there. And I don't want to ruin anything, but it is a great book, great debut book, that I'll be thinking for a while. And People We Meet on Vacation. Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry books. There have been some that I went, oh, that one was okay. Some that I absolutely adored, like Funny Story and Book Lovers, are still my favorites. But People We Meet on Vacation has also entered my favorites of Emily Henry list. And it was about two best friends who um, there's an incident that happens, and then they become not best friends anymore. They're still friendly, but they just do not have that same relationship anymore. They're not close anymore, but she really misses him and wants to talk to him about all the different people you meet on vacation because they used to take vacations together each year. And it is their reconciliation, it is their way of finding themselves back to each other. And um, it's a beautiful tale of relationships and what people mean. This actually doesn't even have the short stories that I read because there was a Busybodies series on Kindle Unlimited that is all these short thriller mystery series. And I love El Cosmano and Jessica Tanto. And so those two drew me in. I read their little short stories, so that's not even in here. Even though I wasn't really a super fan of those because I don't know, maybe it's just too short to have like 100 pages for a whole mystery to unravel. But anyway, I read those. Those aren't on here. So that's 23, I guess, full size books. And I will say I did not do a September wrap up. So I will just leave this here to let you know these are what I read. Heartless Hunter was a fave in there. Daydream was fantastic. I was not a huge fan of Icebreaker and Wildfire. They were fine, but they were just okay. Daydream, I really, really enjoyed. So those are my top two. Heartless Hunter has a second book coming out in 2025. Heartless Hunter is this cat and mouse game where he is tracking down people with magic. She is the person that is freeing the people that he catches that are not deserving of punishment just because of who they are. So it is, but then obviously romance buds and ooh, right? And there's a brother who is her best friend. So there's just kind of this big old triangle of stuff, secrets, mystery, um, danger. But Heartless Hunter, it was really, really good. And the second one, I can't wait. So that's just the quick summary of my September because I did not get there. I want to know what you read in October. How many did you read? And if you had favorites that I have not mentioned, let me know what they are so I can go check them out and read them with you. And see you in the next video.